Educator Ignacio Estrada said it best when he said, and I quote, "If a child cannot learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn." And taking that sentiment to heart is Landmark College, transforming the way students learn, educators teach, and the public thinks about education. On Radio Zindagi 1550 AM, I'm Ajay Virjaya. Hello and welcome to our transformative series, Neurodiversity with Dr. Banerjee, brought to you by Landmark College, one of the only accredited colleges in the United States designed exclusively for students who learn differently, including students with learning disabilities. And our friend and guide through the series, helping us understand what it all means and how to approach neurodiversity, is Dr. Manju Banerjee, Landmark College Learning Disabilities and Neurodiversity Ambassador at Large. With over 30 years of experience, Dr. Banerjee is a certified diagnostician and teacher consultant on learning disabilities, and she's published and presented extensively on topics such as disability documentation and accommodations, online learning, and universal design. And she joins me now. Welcome, Dr. Banerjee. It's so fantastic to have you on to hand hold us through this journey. Really appreciate it.
Hello, Vijaya, and thank you so much for having me and for that wonderful introduction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready to get set.
Yes.
Please go ahead with
And
your
we are
first
so
question.
happy to have you, seriously. And Dr. Banerjee, we often hear the term neurodiversity, right? But for lay people like us, can you help us better understand what really is meant by neurodiversity?
Yes, sure. That's a great question. And, unfortunately, these days we are still wedded to categories and labels. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really time to shake up that thinking. And Landmark College, as you said, is spearheading the way to kind of help us rethink
Yeah.
our perspective on
Mm-hmm.
differences. But let me go back to the question that you asked, namely neurodiversity. And
Mm-hmm.
what is neurodiversity? This term, neurodiversity, was first coined by Judy Singer, an Australian sociologist. I think it was in the 1997s, when
Uh-huh.
she said she was trying to debunk the myth of a normal brain.
Yeah.
And what she said is all these differences that we see in humans, whether it is difference in how we think and how we learn, in our mood, etc., they're all part of the natural order of who we are as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So the word neuro is brain based, and neurodiversity is an acknowledgement of brain based differences which are part of our human heritage.
Wow.
And what that does is, and she really elevated the whole concept of neurodiversity to make it as crucial
Mm-hmm.
as biodiversity is for the human race.
Yeah.
And so this is something I would love to delve deeper into in clarifying and understanding what exactly neurodiversity is. But
Mm-hmm.
very simply, it is an acknowledgement or a recognition that brain based differences are part of who we are. They
Uh-huh.
should not be separating us, but actually be kind of uniting us as human beings. And it's part of our human heritage. So,
Wow.
within that context, one quick thought
Mm-hmm.
belief that individuals who are labeled as autistic or learning disabled
Yes.
or ADHD, these are labels that we put on people.
Mm-hmm.
And what Judy Singer and neurodiversity movement is trying to do is kind of reshape our thinking that
Mm-hmm.
neurodiversity is part of who we are, and these differences are part of the normal neuro brain, if you will.
Uh-huh. Wow, that really, sheds a whole new light on the way you look at it for lay people like us. So Thank you for bringing that to our attention. And let me tell folks who are just joining us, I'm RJ Vijaya talking to Dr. Banerjee on the premiere edition of our new series, Neurodiversity with Dr. Banerjee, brought to you by Landmark College, providing academic support, executive function coaching, and training neurodiverse learners with the skills needed to transition to college and beyond. And of course, Dr. Banerjee is going to handhold us through this series. We're talking about what neurodiversity actually means. And Dr. Banerjee, thank you for that. Is this a new term that is also coined for students with disabilities? And can it really be used interchangeably with learning disabilities? Or is that a different context?
Vijaya, again, great question. And I'm so glad you brought that up because these nuances are really important to
Mm-hmm.
understand.
Yes, yes.
So neurodiversity is really an umbrella term. It is larger than learning difference or learning disability or any other disability. Even though when it was originally coined, the focus was on autism. But the way we use the term neurodiversity, we talk of differences. And it is a social belief based on a biological fact. We all learn differently. That's a biological fact.
Right.
The social belief and the perspective that neurodiversity encourages us to think about takes us away from these categories and these labels like learning disabled, ADHD, and so on. So it's really, one way to think of it is much larger than learning difference or learning disability. It is, as I said earlier, a social movement which is spearheading a different way of thinking about our differences.
So different strokes for different folks.
That's one way to put it.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And while we're at it, I also want to, Landmark College is this amazing resource which helps students with learning differences and who learn differently, like we're talking about. And while their flagship campus is in Vermont, Landmark has a fantastic success center right here in the Bay Area, in San Mateo, California, and that provides neurodiverse teens, young adults, and adults with access to unmatched resources and support for success in their academic and social skills development journey. So, if you'd like, you want to call them at 408 505 4170 today to learn more. That's 408 505 4170, or just visit landmark.edu/success center. That's landmark.edu/success center. So, Dr. Banerjee, another question that comes to mind when we're talking college and we're talking studies and students, how does really neurodiversity apply to students in schools and colleges? And who are considered neurodiverse students then?
Yeah, another great question. And again, unfortunately, in schools and colleges around the country, we are still defined by traditional labels and definitions. And that is the reality. Now, don't get me wrong. And in later sessions, I can talk more about the value of having a diagnostic category or a label. But since we're talking neurodiversity, it's really important to realize, first of all, so who are these neurodiverse students? First of all, neurodiversity is not written on your head. So you're not going to see a label, someone who's neurodiverse. It is differences. And often our differences are hidden. We don't know that someone sitting next to us in the class is very different. So let me give you some examples of neurodiversity in schools and colleges. And I'll talk more about the importance of these differences and how important it is for parents, educators, tutors, advisors to be cognizant of neurodiversity and neurodiverse individuals. So for my parents and teachers in the audience, think about that student who is very bright, very sharp, but terribly disorganized, is always losing her homework or doesn't turn in the work on time. Then we also have those who are perfectionists. who never, I mean, they're great at doing the work, very creative thinkers,
Yeah.
but they don't turn in their work because they feel, oh no, this is not the perfect essay, or this is
Ah,
not the perfect project. Do you know
yes.
what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
They want to
I
just be
can't.
perfect before they go anywhere near submitting it. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so these are all examples of neurodiverse. Let me give you a few more.
Yeah.
Do you know someone who gets so overwhelmed by the schoolwork that they completely shut down and they cannot function?
Mm.
Then you also have others who read very slowly. They read with their ears, not with their eyes. And so they are audio learners. And if they don't have access to that, they just can't keep up with the pace of the class. These are all neurodiverse individuals.
Uh-huh.
If you will oblige me, I'll give you another couple of examples at the
Sure.
other end of the spectrum.
Please do. Yeah.
It is so important for parents and student and teachers to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually, and I hope she will be okay with it.
Yeah.
This is my older daughter, who's very bright,
Yeah.
very sharp.
Yeah.
She does not have a diagnostic label,
Yes.
because as a parent, we were so focused on academics. In school, she was labeled as a nerd, and nobody wanted to be her friend. So to my Southeast Asian members in the audience,
Yeah.
it is very subtle. We thought, we were helping her, and she did very well. I mean, she went to UPenn and Tufts, all of these great colleges, did very well, and all of that is fine.
Mm-hmm.
He was labeled a nerd.
Uh-huh.
So it is really important. This is a concept that I would love my audience to think about:
Mm-hmm.
the peer approval. And I used to talk to my students about the peer approval index of
Yeah.
a particular student that you're working with,
Mm-hmm.
because that is as important as getting straight A's. So, who are these neurodiverse students? I described these profiles to you.
Yeah. But
But
that could be any one of us. I mean, that sounds
exactly,
totally
exactly.
regular, right?
It
Mm-hmm.
could be the nerd who's very bright at one
Yeah.
end, or unfortunately, someone who's called a retard at the
Yeah.
other end. And
Right.
these labels that we put on neurodiverse individuals
Mm-hmm.
is hurtful.
Yes.
It really creates emotional lack of confidence
Yes.
for
Yeah. It
these
does a
people.
lot to the self-esteem. It affects the self-esteem a lot. And yeah.
It absolutely does.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, Vijaya working with a student at a Research One University, 4-year college university, very, very research oriented.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of my students that I worked with coming up to me and saying, Dr. Banerjee, I don't have any friends. How can I make friends?
Ah.
I was like, why? What happened?
Yeah.
He said, well, in class today in the morning, I went to sit next to this girl, and I asked her, uh, excuse me, may I have the permission to sit here if you don't mind?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of looked at him and I said, that's a very awkward way of putting it. And I was
Yeah.
not being sensitive. I was
Yeah.
not being sensitive.
Right.
I said, you're too polite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
asked me very innocently, what's wrong with being polite?
Mm-hmm.
My mother said, politeness is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you understand these differences. Some
Yeah.
people will approach a situation in a
Yes.
different way.
Differently. Mm-hmm.
And many of our students that we have in schools and colleges are not uh, conversant with
Mm.
the college lingo, if you
Yes.
will,
Right.
and the acronyms that students use on their cell phones and so on.
Yeah.
So to be with it
Yes.
is very important, and
Correct.
parents often don't understand that. So
Yes. Well,
we want
thank you for,
to
shining the light on that and making that be seen rather. And of course, I want to tell folks you're listening to a premiere edition of our fantastic show. It's called Neurodiversity with Dr. Banerjee, and she's here to help guide us through all that it means to be neurodiverse and the help that you can get towards it. And of course, bringing this program to you is Landmark College, empowering students and transforming education. Landmark College is a community designed exclusively for students who learn differently, including students with all of those labels that Dr. Banerjee just mentioned: learning disability like dyslexia, ADHD, autism, executive function challenges. All of these are really helped out at Landmark, and they have their Bay Area Success Center right here in San Mateo. I think it's the best kept secret and such a rich resource right here. You want to reach them today at landmark.edu/success center. That's landmark.edu/success center. They're already enrolling for the summer and fall, or you can just call them at 408-505-4170. That's 408-505-4170. So, Dr. Banerjee, I know you mentioned labels and all of that, but a lot of folks are take a step back and they're not unable to thrive at school, in work, and in life with all of these differences. They're often stigmatized, overlooked, and invisible to some extent. What, according to you, are some of the misconceptions about neurodiverse individuals?
Again, great questions, Vijaya. Let me just, if I may, before I answer that question, add that Landmark College has a Center for Neurodiversity. And the very fact that, so it provides a lot of information and mentorship for people who want to know more about neurodiversity, the concept, as well as the movement.
Yeah.
But that being said, some of the things that are really important to understand when we are looking at the global implications of neurodiversity and misconceptions in particular is that first of all, number one, neurodiversity is not another name for someone with a disability or slow learner. So that's really, really important. That's because you're neurodiverse does not mean that you necessarily learn slowly.
Okay.
It may be that academics is not your issue at all. It may be social pragmatics and how you communicate and how you participate in a learning community. I remember one of my students telling me, it's not a student, actually, an audience member at a conference, said, Landmark College gave me my smile back.
Ah, oh my
That's
gosh.
a powerful statement.
I'm getting goosebumps.
I did. It really made me emotional to think that this kid had been so beaten down. I mean, when she was a college student, she was an adult when I met her, had been so beaten down that she did not think that she had the capability to be successful. And she was always down on herself until she came to Landmark College. So it's really important that students who are neurodiverse understand that there are other people like them, that they are not alone. So that is a misconception that people have, especially when you have a label like autism, ADHD, learning disability, etc., or a mental health issue. You think you are alone. You're the only one. And that's a real misconception.
Very true.
Because you're not alone, and especially at Landmark. At Landmark, every student is neurodiverse. So students come up and say, oh my God, you're the same way. Oh my goodness, I thought that I was the only one and I was hiding it when I was in school. So that's an important takeaway, number one. Number two, people believe neurodiversity can be cured. It's not a disease to be cured. It's a difference. So learning differences can be developmental. And as you grow, it can morph and you can not necessarily demonstrate the symptoms. For example, we know from research, which is very interesting, for students with ADHD, the younger kids show a lot of hyperactivity, out of seat behavior in the schools.
Yeah.
But as they become young adults and adults, that hyperactivity without any intervention turns to anxiety, and they become highly anxious
Yeah.
folks.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, with intervention, these
Yeah.
can be addressed. But it's not a pill. I mean, and there is medication for ADHD, but it's not a matter of being cured and now you don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
You have it, but it has been accommodated or
Mm-hmm.
compensated or
Yes.
mediated because
Mm-hmm.
of different interventions. So
Right.
that is a misconception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another misconception is this trade-off theory that's there. That is, many neurodiverse individuals have challenges in some area, but because of that, they are uniquely qualified in other areas. They have strength in other areas. Let me tell you, Vijaya, that is
Mm-hmm.
not always the case.
Yeah.
And being neurodiverse can be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So the belief that it is a trade-off between your strengths and your challenges
Yeah.
does not work for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some associative research that talks about, if you're neurodiverse and you have a specific label such as autism, for example, you are very good with routine work, you don't get bored easily, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, that's not, I mean, for every individual, neurodiverse individual is different.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. Mm-hmm.
and that is not always the case. That's a myth
Yes.
that, you are automatically good at routine work or visual perceptual tasks and things
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
There is an association, but it's not cause and effect. And
Okay.
that's really important for our
Mm-hmm.
audience to understand.
Yeah. Well, thank you for, bringing so many things to the fore. And I myself, talking to you, I feel like a light bulb's gone off. Like it's sort of brought so many things into the picture, and I'm excited about having continued conversations on this. And I really appreciate and thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this conversation and to educate our South Asian listeners on, because this is one topic that we tend to not confront, but it's time to bring that out and really educate people on it. They're quite unaware of it. And of course, in the upcoming editions, we're going to delve deeply into all of the many aspects of neurodiversity, the strategies to navigate the world as a student, as a parent, and to really equip you for a bright future. And of course, to do that, there's Landmark College that offers personalized assistance not found at most traditional colleges and degree programs for students, and professional training for educators as well. So discover your learning ability. Log on to landmark.edu, and of course the Success Center right here in San Mateo. You can call them at 408 505 4170. And thank you again, Dr. Banerjee. I'm looking forward to our next edition already. Can't wait to talk to you further. So much appreciated for your insights, and looking forward to it.
I am doing the same, Vijay, looking forward to it. May I leave you with one resource for your audience?
Please, yes.
Uh, this is a book. It's called The Power of Neurodiversity, Unleashing the Advantages of Your Differently Wired Brain. It's by Thomas Armstrong. So if
Mm-hmm.
the audience would just Google Armstrong and neurodiversity, the book will come up. It's a great read. You will enjoy it.
Excellent. Thank you for bringing that to us. And folks, Landmark College again, and Dr. Banji, they're on hand to help you every step of the way. If you are a neurodiverse student or parent, just visit landmark.edu/success center and learn more, or call them today at 408 505 4170. And remember to join us every Thursday, 3:30 p.m. for another enlightening edition of Neurodiversity with Dr. Banerjee, brought to you by Landmark College. I'm RJ Vijaya. For now, keep listening to Radio Zindagi. Jiye ja.